What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me here on Feature Junkie. My name's Ed, and today we're going to be talking about the new movie, The Flash. Directed by Andy Muschietti, starring Ezra Miller, Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, Sasha Kaya, and Michael Shannon. So finally, we had the chance to see this movie after so many years of hearing how great it was, the hype and all that stuff. Was it all real? I definitely want to get into that. But before I do, if you could leave a like down below, I'd greatly appreciate that. Now let's get into the plot courtesy of IMDb. Barry Allen is struck by a lightning bolt, and thus an extraordinary power is born inside of him, the Speed Force. When he uses the power to run back in time and save his mother, he creates a world without heroes, and General Zod has returned. To defeat him, his only hope rests in the hands of a retired Batman, another Barry, and an imprisoned Kryptonian. So there's just so much to talk about in this film. If you're trying to go into this movie spoiler free, by all means save this video and watch it later. I am going to be talking about a few things that happen in the film, so once again, this is going to be a spoiler discussion. Now, right off the top, let's go into the numbers. It looks like The Flash did not produce the way that the DC, James Gunn, all of them were hoping that it would produce. Money-wise, it looks like it opened just less than Black Adam, which is pretty bad. Now, in my opinion, this movie is way better than Black Adam, and I like Black Adam to a certain extent, but in this movie I was definitely more invested. It had all those elements of the emotion, the character arcs, the comedy, the action. It really had everything you would want in a film, and to me, I absolutely love the film. And I just want to start off by saying we all know the controversy that's gone on with Ezra Miller throughout these years. That's the whole reason that this movie has been pushed back so far. So putting that aside, we all know what he did was stupid, bad. Will they recast him as the Flash? They'll probably recast him. But going off of his performance in this film, I thought he did an incredible job. To me, it's definitely one of the hardest things to do when acting with yourself. He's playing two Barry Allens, and one is a younger version of himself, one is the current version that we know from the Justice League. And to give us these character arcs of these people that we end up really loving in the end of the film, and doing that with, again, just acting by himself is just incredible work. There's a few characters in this film that I guess that didn't really have that big of an arc. I did like Supergirl, but her role wasn't that big. General Zod, I felt like he was, I don't know if maybe mishandled is the right word, but he didn't have as big of a role as I thought he would. But overall, I'll just say the overall acting in the film was really good. And all that to really highlight the main person that I really came to this film to see, and that was Michael Keaton returning as Batman. The 1989 version of Batman was the movie that got me into comic books, movie loving stuff. Like, that was the movie for me growing up. I watched it so many times every single day, and it was just so cool to see him return in this role. And he's badass as well. Like, he can fight, he can, you know, he has those quippy lines of like, you want to get nuts, let's get nuts. And of course, how can we forget,
yeah, I'm Batman.
But yeah, overall, I was super happy for him to, you know, revisit this role. I know he really loves the role of Batman, and he holds it really dear to his heart. So, again, super shout out to Michael Keaton and all the work that he did in this film. Now, story-wise, I think the way they do this story, it's brilliant. They kind of infuse elements of Back to the Future and the multiverse and all that stuff, and kind of put it together in a way that they explain really well with using spaghetti. I think the overall story is basically the Flashpoint story of his mother dying. Barry figures out that he can go back in time, run super fast, go back in time and save his mother. Doing that kind of catapults different reactions and different changes in the timeline. And the movie really sets up this emotional moment with Barry and his mother, and there's also the lesson of learning to cope with loss and the maturity aspect of that stuff. All of that, I think, was really well done. Now, the things that I did have a problem with, and which doesn't make it, you know, the best comic book movie of all time, is the CGI. When the CGI was great, it was great. When it wasn't, it was not. And if you've seen the movie already, I told you guys I was going to spoil some things. They have this scene where there's a bunch of babies falling from the sky, and obviously you can't use real babies, but at the same time, the babies look so fake. Like, the whole scene is just like, it just drew my eye away from like what I was watching in that moment. Again, a cool scene, but like the CGI wasn't done really well. Some of the fight scenes definitely could have used some brushing up, and to me, the reason I kind of hit this so hard is because this movie has been done for 3+ years. You had plenty of time to wash over, you know, those VFX and make sure that they're crystal clear. Now, the director, Andy Muschietti, did come out and say that the CGI is supposed to look like this. The reason they did it like this, and when they're in the Speed Force, how everything kind of looks cartoony, is because he wants us to see things in the way that Barry Allen sees them. I'm not buying that. To an extent, I could see what he's saying with that, but overall, it just wasn't working in those moments. Other than that, and a few unexplained things that happen in the movie, like who kills Barry Allen's mother, you know, the whole background of General Zod. If you don't know, if you haven't watched The Man of Steel, you're definitely going to be lost on who this character is. But being that I've seen all those films, it just all made sense. It all came together really well for myself. And the last thing I want to touch on is the cameos that come out in this film. There's so many cameos in here that I was not expecting on seeing. I did know that Ben Affleck's role, it kind of felt like it was diminished to like a little bit more of a cameo spot than actual role in the film. But all the other cameos like Wonder Woman and Nicolas Cage's Superman, which was super crazy to see. You had Christopher Reeves, which a lot of people were a little bit iffy on because, you know, he was CGI'd into the film instead of just using old footage of him. I don't really understand why they decided to do it that route, but it didn't bother me at all. It was just cool to see his image in this film, and really, you know, it was kind of an appreciation of all the years of the DC movies and stuff like that and TV shows. So I popped when I saw all of that, and of course the cliffhanger at the end when you see George Clooney. George Clooney has always come out and said that this Batman movie that he did was the worst role that he ever could have done. So it was really surprising to see him come back as Bruce Wayne. But overall, I really did love this film. It was a really fast-paced film where things were happening back to back to back, and you know, for the pacing of it, I thought was really well done. A few things were kind of just cut off, and it was like, let's hurry up and move into the next scene. But you know, that's just small stuff to me. Overall, for me, it had those comedy moments, it had the action, it had the family, the plot of it I thought was just all well done, and it was probably, to me, it's up there for the best DC EU, at least, projects that have come out. But I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about this film. I want to get into a conversation, probably at the end of the week, more just about what you guys thought about the film, if you liked it, if you didn't, what you would have changed in the film, whatever it is, you know, leave those in comments down below. I definitely want to have that conversation with you. But if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe, hit that notification icon down below so you know when I'm going live or dropping new content. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today on Feature Junkie.